Welcome student to the second version of our database application with VB.NET. In the previous uh, video, I have shown you how very simply you can create a simple database and connect it to your Windows form, and without writing a single line of code. You have seen that it was working. That is, we can add, edit, delete, and do other stuff. Okay, so now uh, in this database we'll go a little bit advanced version of that database of this. I'll be using the same database, but this time, as you can see, the form is free. So if you remember that what we did was that we created a table by the name I'll just show you over here. We have created a table by the name student. All right, in case you are following this video right now, so you can just this is just like a small review of what we have done. So we have created a table where there are certain fields, that is ID, roll number, name, and class. That's it. And ID is your primary key. So we have created it here. It's in Visual Basic application itself. All right, and then what we have done is that we have added some data and all. But now we are doing some advanced version. So let me show you what we are going to do exactly. So let's go. So this was this one. So the your ID, roll number, name, and class. So if you haven't created it, so please do create. Otherwise, you won't be able to follow this video. So now I'll close this. So this is our form. So I have already told you the difference between the Server Explorer and the data source. So if you want to drag all these fields into here to make a GUI application, then you need to look into the data source, not the Server Explorer. As I said, like if I click from here, if I drag, it will never come. So what you have to do is that you go to your data source, add this table. So it has already been added, and that has been, you have to follow from the first video. So now what you do is that we want this table, but this time what I want to do, I don't want it as a grid view. Remember the grid view where it was in terms of rows and columns. So I want a detail view. So I will just click on this detail, right there, and then I will drag and drop it. So the moment I'll do that, many things comes up, as I have already explained you what are all these things. So what happens here in a detail view is that it comes in terms of the text fields and labels as it is over here. Now what I want to do here is that now if I run this is, that's it. Like if I drag and drop it, and you will see that if I start this program, and you will see that my program starts working. That is, I can add data, I can edit data, I can delete the data, and all those things starts up. So just to show you that everything is fine, even for me to check whether everything is working, so let's run this project as I have already run it. So let's wait for some time. There it pops up. All right, so yeah, so there was some record. So there are 4 records. I can see that 1 2 3 4. Okay, so you can go move to the next record and so on. All right, so these are the records that is there. So and it is working fine. All right, now what I want to do is that, so now what do you realize, I just dragged and dropped it over here, not a single line of code, right? Now the codes were automatically generated here. You can see a lot of code has been generated, which I haven't written a single line of code. We just dragged and dropped it. But now what I want to do is that I want to create a custom search. What I mean is that, let me show you. uh, let me bring a level over here, right? So here is the level. Okay, and I will just make a text over here. Go to the property, and we'll say uh, enter the, because my primary key is the ID, so enter the ID to search. Means I want to create a custom field. All right, so here you will enter an ID from the table. So let's take it in a text box. uh, there is text box. All right, so my idea is that when I enter the ID in the text box, I will click on OK. There will be a button, or let's say search. Okay, and immediately it should be able to display that particular ID over here, which was not happening over here in this drag and drop scenario, right? So let's say search. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so I want to do this. So right now, that means what, I have to write some customized code of my own. Not exactly customize, I will say that I will modify my data set so that it can do what I want. So I will go to the data set. Now how do I go to the data set? This is your data set, if you remember. Okay, so you double click on it, and it's already here. So you can see that if I double click over here, Okay, so it is coming over here. Can you see that? Okay, so now this has come over here. So now here there is already a fill and a get that is already. Now this, if you remember, what is a table adapter? A table adapter, for example, there was only one table by the name student data. So this student data adapter is connected to this. That means all my queries will be run through this table adapter for this particular table. If there were more than one table in this particular data set, then you will be seeing them uh, in a graphical user interface here, right? So right now we have one table and one table adapter which is connected to this. Now what I want to do is that I will create my own custom query. So how do I do it? Right click on it, add query. Okay, so now we want to create a select query because I want to search, right? I don't want to create a stored procedure and all. So search means select, right? So select, I click on next. Now these are the options that we have. We can select which rows returns. That's what exactly what we want. Rest of them, it's already if you are familiar with your SQL commands, then you will be knowing that what which returns a single value. For example, you want to count the number of records and all, update, delete, insert. So if you are familiar with them, you will get an idea what all these things mean. But right now we want the select which returns rows. So go for next. Okay, now I don't want like select id, roll number, name, class from dbo.student, which it will return everything, right? But my query is according to the id that I want. So here again in Visual Basic, it's very easy to create by using the graphical interface. All right, otherwise if you are very good in writing SQL query, you can just write where, if you from student, where mm, where let's say id equals to, you can give a question mark. That's like so that it can whatever question mark I'll be supplying, it will be means whatever id it will be supplying, it will take it. So that is if you know your query well. But suppose I don't know them, so then what I can do is that I can use this one that is called a query builder. So let's click on this query builder, and as I said here, it's a graphical interface for this one. So see, select id, roll number, name, this from student data. I want where this one. So what you do is that you click on this filter, okay, and give a question mark over there. The moment you do this, can you see this where id equals to param1 has automatically been created? That means I didn't worry about it. I just give a question mark and immediately where id equals to param1. That is a parameter that you have to supply in the function. So let me show you. So let's give okay. Okay, so now what I'll do is that next, or you can give finish also. All right, now here are very interesting things. These two things you should understand. Okay, one is what you can do is that you fill your data table. Okay, so data table is your temporary table which will, now when you say fill, okay, creates a method that takes data table or data set as a parameter and executes the SQL statement or select stored procedure entered in the previous page. So here there is a fill. So can you see this fill and get data, both are there, right? But here the name is now fill by and get data by. But what I'll do, I will add my own flavor to it. So fill by id, because I'm searching it by id, and get data by id. I'll keep both of them. Okay, so if you wish, if you want to keep one of them, you can keep, but I'll tell you what is the difference when I'll come to a little bit of coding. Okay, so here, so I kept both of them and I'll give next. Okay, so there it is generated, finish. Let's finish up this. Now this too is what we have created just now, our own query. And what it did, the best part of Visual Studio is that it automatically created two methods. One is called fill by id, another is get data by id. So both of them has been created. Now what I'll do is that I will go to this our design window and I will go to this search. Now I want this search. Okay, now see the best part, I will just copy paste some of the code. So let me copy till here. Okay, let me copy the entire thing. Okay, I'll copy because this is already there. Can you see the fill they have used? Can you see that? That's because there was already a fill by default. But now what I'll do is that when we'll click on that button, I want, first of all, I want the id, right, which is a integer. So dim, let's say I'll say id as integer. Okay, and then id equals to, we'll take it from that text box, was text box 1 dot text, right? So I will just say val so that it will convert it to an, yep, all right, so it will convert it to an integer and store it over here. Right, now the interesting part is me is this current context student data table adapter. So that is this one, student table adapter. Okay, then dot, do you want fill of, or you want fill by id? We want the fill by id or get, I have this one. So I will use, I'll go back here. Okay, so I don't want this fill. What I want is that, can you see this fill by id has come up now? So you just click on this fill by id. Now this is the so-called the data table that will fill. Now you see, if I give comma, okay, now the moment I give comma, can you see this param1? Param1 is the id that I want to send, so I'll just give the id. So now the very easily what it will do is that the moment I'll click on that search, it will take the id from the text box. Okay, and then it will run that command select star from all those things by using the id that is there, and immediately it will fill my data set. In that data set there is a data table, it will fill it and it will display it. Let's see how it works. All right, so that much coding you have to do. So you can see how customized I did it by using one or two lines of code. All right, now let's say I have id 1, I think I have id 2, 3 and 4. Right, now I want to search for id 1, so I'll just click on 1. Okay, that's my 1, and I say search. Can you see that it's going to 1? That means it is searching my record. Let's say 3. Right, search, it brings this one. So that's how easy and how convenient Visual Studio makes your life by creating this visual interface through which you can easily do any database application. All right, so this is one way of searching it. Now here is a work that you can try. Now why don't you try the same thing, where uh, here I am searching it by ID, so that I can search by anything, whether it can be an ID, it can be a roll number, it can be a name, or it can be a class. So that means what, you need multiple search. So here is a hint. What you need to do is that maybe you have to create fill by ID is one, fill by name is one, fill by roll number and on, so on. You have to create multiple fill. So this is your assignment, or this is your work that you can do after following this video. Try to create a search which will be able to search by roll number, name as well as class, and you can use multiple search button for that also. All right, thank you.